we as physicians, we're not taught nutrition at all. Maybe a week and a half.
Autism, and you were talking about the vaccines, and I think that's a controversial topic for a lot of people. What about the Impossible Burger?
That's complete poison.
Dr. Jon Maxham is an Air Force veteran, and though he's not a politician, he's running for Clark County Commission. With 15 years healing patients, he's now vowing to restore doctor-patient trust, defend medical freedom, and bring proven conservative leadership to heal the Las Vegas community. Everyone should be taking a multivitamin.
No, those are complete garbage.
As a physician before COVID, how did you feel about vaccines in general?
If you're giving more and more vaccines, we should have less and less health discrepancy, and we should have better outcomes.
Adderall is underprescribed in adults.
I think it's probably overprescribed. I'm not 1,000% certain that vaccines cause autism, but
Hi there, and welcome to Roll with Steve. Before we get started, a quick favor. If you enjoyed these conversations, hit that subscribe button and join our community. I've got a bold goal to grow this channel to 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. And together, I know we can make that happen. So I appreciate your support. My commitment to you is to create new content weekly with talented guests that will help you grow personally and professionally. Also, drop a comment with your thoughts. I read every single one. If you find value here, a quick like or share helps others find the show. Thanks, and let's roll into today's episode. You've talked about what people choose to care about versus what they should be caring about when it comes to their own health, especially the metrics that they track versus what they should be looking at. Can you break down for me what you've seen in your practice that patients care about versus what you as a doctor say they should be caring about?
So they definitely care about their cholesterol, and they definitely care about their blood pressure, and they definitely care a little bit. They care about their A1C, but mostly their cholesterol and their blood pressure.
Should people care about cholesterol and blood pressure? Are those important things?
I mean, they're factors, but you know, the most important thing for blood pressure is hydration. Most people drink 3 coffees, eat sugar all day long, and don't consume electrolytes. What's going to happen to your blood pressure? It's going to go up. What do we do when you come to the hospital? We give you normal saline. That's salt.
IV's the first thing, right?
IV, yeah. And then what happens? Pressure comes down.
Yeah.
Now, you know, if you've lost a lot of blood volume, then fine. Yeah, you need to replace it with electrolytes as well. My whole point to everything is stop treating a number, stop treating a statistic, and treat the patient and identify what the cause is in their life for why they're experiencing. Sometimes people are in excessive amounts of stress. If you take care of the stress with counseling or get them plugged in here, they don't need the med. And the med ends up causing problems down the line, especially in the elderly. One of the most important things, I had a family practitioner in Michigan. He had so many patients that were 90 plus. And I'm like, Dr. Tarantino, what's your secret? He's like, when the body works, just don't worry about it. Don't get in the way. And I took that to heart.
For people that want to live a long life, that want to be classically healthy, if they're not going to be tracking things like cholesterol and blood pressure and their weight.
I mean, you should track it, but it should not go below 150. It is very obvious that cholesterol is important for hormones. It's very obvious it's important for the blood-brain barrier. And that's why we're seeing more hormonal disruptants. Food always, right? The food, the air quality, it needs to clean up. But basically, we're seeing more and more causes for Alzheimer's because I believe, and there are many that support this, that there was such a push for statins. And I'm not quite at the age of 50. My grandfather died in his 50s and 60s. And I always said I would take a statin from the moment I was in med school. At 50, I will take a statin. And now I will never take a statin.
What are those statins that's lowering your cholesterol?
Well, they lower the cholesterol, but here's the example. Inflammation is the problem. What is cholesterol? It's the firefighter that puts it out. Why are you killing the firefighter? Let's go after the fire. That's exactly what it is.
I've never heard it put that way.
Yeah. And that's why the number used to be 400, and then it was 300, and now it's 200, and they're trying to lower it even further. And I believe there's studies that say if it goes much less than 150, you really aren't building, because cholesterol is a building from the liver. You're not able to build the building blocks of your body. And of course, you're going to suffer for it.
So what are the root causes of the inflammation?
I think that's a multifaceted question. Definitely some of the foods, but what did they tell you was healthy? Canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil. All of this was just easy ways that they could take something, manufacture it cheaply, and feed it to you, and then they realized that they could, or they knew from the beginning that they could profit downstream. So your better fats, wait for it, butter, ghee, which is refined butter, EVOO, made in a natural way, and avocado oil that is also made in a natural way. You really have to be a smart and sharp consumer, because most of what the world offers is to take you down, not to build you up.
So if I draw a straight line from it, we go high cholesterol that they're trying to lower is caused by the inflammation, which is caused by big food. And so you have big food starting the problem, and then Big Pharma comes in.
So do you know what that's called?
What is that called?
That's called Hegelian dialect.
Hegelian dialect. Explain that to me.
So basically, problem, reaction, solution. And that's what I believe we've been living our entire lives. And it's time to put a stop to it.
So you say problem, big food, reaction, solution, Big Pharma.
Bingo.
And it all feeds itself. Where is the insurance company in that, by the way?
Well, they're definitely somewhere.
Yeah. Because they're not allowing the preventative care, even the preventative advice from a doctor to get ahead of the inflammation, to be able to talk about it. Then you bring up seed oils. This is something that's very interesting to me, too, because I just watched the Paul Saladino documentary on YouTube about seed oils that came out about 6 months ago. And I went through my pantry afterward. And I'm looking, my wife shops at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Sprouts.
Whole Foods is Monsanto.
We're thinking that, well, we're eating healthy. We're buying from all. And you go through, and it's just sunflower oil, canola oil. It's seed oil, seed oil, seed oil. It's in everything.
It's sickening.
In everything.
It's scary.
Do you think that 30 years from now, we're not going to see any seed oils at all? Because it seems so obvious.
There is a push to remove some of it. And I mean, just look at our kids' candies, and they're filled with all these dyes.
Yeah.
What are those dyes? Patents. Well, they also make them addictive, right? Maybe I heard that so there's a gentleman, I think he's in Europe, and he hates the Skittles that are in Europe because they don't taste the same as here.
Is that right?
But they're more natural. So, look, if you want to choose the poison, let's label it as such, which I think is what they're doing.
Sure.
If you have a disagreement with what I say, I'd like you to bring it to me and explain it, and then me discuss what I know, and then we get to higher ground. Mm-hmm. I'd like to understand, because what I don't understand is where we're at today in America and where we're at in our sick care model. And all I can see is that it was completely designed this way, and we should not continue to follow it.
I want to shift and talk about some politics, but before we do, I love doing this on the podcast where I give you a series of statements and allow you, with your pedigree and background in the medical field as a doctor, to respond to them. Because the idea here is it inside these marketing claims. I'm going to give you a series of marketing claims one by one. We'll have you respond with either it's true It's misleading or it's a flat out lie. True, misleading, or lie. Cholesterol causes heart disease.
Yeah, that's a lie.
Statins save lives.
Misleading.
Everyone should be taking a multivitamin.
No, those are complete garbage.
The FDA protects public health.
I think that's a lie. Not even misleading.
Vaccines are generally safe and effective.
I think it's misleading.
Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Well, okay. Break fast. I'll go with misleading.
Adderall is underprescribed in adults.
I think it's probably overprescribed.
The obesity epidemic is mostly genetic.
Yeah, that's a lie.
Artificial sweeteners are harmless.
Yeah, that's definitely a lie.
Big Pharma funds most medical school education.
So I have not seen that, but I would not be surprised about it. And I do think it's the sponsors and the, what do you call those, lobbyists and those things.
Yeah.
And so what I foresee is we're going to build better sandboxes. And that's what I believe this healthcare revolution is all about.
We talked earlier about fixing it with the lay people, the consumers first. Fixing it with politicians seems near impossible. What about fixing it with doctors in medical school? Could you just reform medical school and get to a point where these physicians aren't going to be susceptible to being unknowingly owned by Big Pharma, unknowingly owned by Big Food?
So the only way I can see that happening to start is to get people like med students or residents and let them see a practice that practices traditionally and then a practice that practices like I practice. And then to then see the results in the labs, in the patient's demeanor, in their spirit, and in their vitals and all of that.
Sure. I want to ask you, I watched one of your reels, and this is the topic of cold plunging in the wellness industry.
Yeah.
Level with me on cold plunging, because when it first came out, I was thinking, oh, this is just a marketing gimmick and people are going in the cold water. Like, it looks like it really, really sucks. But I see doctors talking about it. I see you doing it. Is cold plunging the real deal?
I, first of all, believe that we're 100% spirit, soul, then body, right? And so we're trying to reset those things, and then we're trying to reset ourselves. Part of cold plunge, just like if you humble yourself and fast, there is definitely medical and biological changes, but mostly you're just saying, no, I'm not going to do this. And so, there is definitely physiologic benefit. It helps reset mitochondria. But there's a mental aspect that you're saying, I'm going to do this for this, and that's powerful. Because when you can give something up and you can kind of learn that your body can compensate and make the adjustment, then you're not as dependent on what you've been sold all your life.
Yeah. Does that make it more of a mental thing to push through?
I mean, it's
or
both.
The physical side? What are the physical sides? Help me as a doctor understand. Like, if I hop into 60-degree water, because I'm not going to go colder than that as I start off, what's actually happening that's good for me?
I don't know if 60 degrees is resetting your mitochondria, but your mitochondria are your basic building block of each cell. And the whole game is to maximize the efficiency of the cell.
How cold should your cold plunge be?
Oh, I mean, as much as you can tolerate.
Okay.
And obviously I wouldn't go too extreme. Like a bucket of ice, that's as extreme as I think you probably want to be.
How do you look at all the marketing around the cold plunge? Now, it's rarely someone like you who's not selling a product talking about it. It's someone saying, hey, these are all the health benefits of the sauna and the cold plunge. Oh, by the way, here's my discount link to go buy it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I think we got to empower ourselves to take our health back. We don't need a pill to do it. We don't need an industry to do it, especially when they kind of go against what is really good. And you can do a lot of the things on your own, and you don't need gimmicky products. You just need your cold shower. You need to get out in the dry. I mean, it's basically a sauna if you walk at 110 degrees right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was talking with Alex Clark yesterday, and we're talking about some of these health benefits and the products associated with them. And part of her take on it was, yeah, you can go get a red light machine or just go outside, sunset and sunrise. Like,
that's right.
And you're saying, you got to shower. You don't have to go buy the cold plunge.
Yeah,
you can still make this stuff happen.
We don't have to complicate it. And that I'm glad Alex Clark said that, because vitamin D and sunlight is essential to healing everything. And it repletes your vitamin D. And when you have higher vitamin D levels, much higher than the insurance authorizes, which is a 25 hydroxy, which is your lab value of 30, which is nonsense. And I see people with 8 and the insurance still box sometimes. So don't let insurance define your care, for it will define your grave. But try to get your vitamin D level up to 50 to 60, closer to 80. Yeah, too much is probably a bad thing. But once it's above 40, you have less risk of cancer. You have less autoimmune. It is a pro-hormone. It is essential.
For people who are not educated classically, medically, having gone through their own personal education on this, they get on TikTok, they get on Instagram, they're scrolling through, and they're being sold product after product with a marketing pitch, and they're getting all their information about medicine not from just Facebook and Instagram. It's coming from the reel that someone's trying to sell them in. Like They're just getting somebody's marketing pitch. What would your advice be to people to know who they can trust and who they can't when they're scrolling on social media and everybody's trying to sell them something, and that's where the medical knowledge comes through? Who do they trust?
Obviously, if somebody's trying to sell you something, there's something there. But then you got to source it out, and you got to identify people's intentions. Most of the stuff sold at Target, I call it Hellmart. I call it Shitco.
None of them sponsored the podcast, so we should be fine.
So the big box stores, I don't think you actually get good supplementation. I've actually seen patients are like, well, I'm taking this. And I'm like, I mean, that's okay, but it's not working. There are people like myself that are scattered throughout the land, and I would look up people that are promoting direct primary care. Not concierge. Concierge is still part of the insurance cabal, part of that system. Direct primary care is putting the emphasis on you as the patient, me as the physician, and what we're trying to do is restore your health, make you live long, let you enjoy your family, and love the things that you do.
Supplements are pretty commonly known to not be regulated by the FDA. Then you've got plenty of Instagram and TikTok stars who are going through and doing these third-party tests on supplements and finding out the stuff that it says on the ingredient is not actually in there whatsoever at all. Well, what's the solution on that? Because I can't trust the FDA, apparently, and I can't trust the company that's making it, or at least the manufacturer. A lot of these brand owners, I think it has the stuff it's supposed to have in there. How should we be thinking about this? If government can't solve the problem and we can't self-certify it, what do we do to know what we're taking when it comes to supplements?
So, in my opinion, even the Sprouts, all of, like the mom and pops, they are generally getting it direct from the source. The other places, they are probably getting it from the main source, which I can tell you is all owned by Big Pharma. Big Pharma went and bought out most of the supplements, just like they bought Burt's Beeswax.
Who are the bad guys here? Because if I think through this, the executives at these companies, I have to believe that they're helping people. It's the same way that I look at politics in a Barack Obama, Joe Biden versus a Trump versus a Bush, where I'm like, well, I do think they all love America and they want what's good for their kids. And so but they differ certainly on the policies. Who are the bad guys to you inside of the FDA, the NIH, the insurance companies, the big pharma? Are there bad guys?
Who are the bad guys? I think almost anybody and everybody. The people that are profiting in this system are the people that are destroying you, and the people that have been in power for, in my opinion, far too long. It's time to put them in check. And the way you do that is you just take control of your life and your health again. You stop eating out of convenience, shopping out of convenience. You support your local grower. You support your local farm. You support your local butcher. And you support your local industry, and that's what we kind of aim to do. And I think corporate medicine, corporate education, corporate even spirituality needs to go by the wayside, because I think they missed the boat.
See, that's what I keep on hearing. The fix for it is consumers making changes, not so much waiting for the politicians to come around.
I think politicians are in bed with all of the nonsense, and they're never going to come around because they're paid off.
Is that campaign donations? What goes through your mind when you say that?
I mean, it could be campaign donations. It could be taking Raiders tickets. It could be taking F1 tickets. It could be a lot of things. But what are people's intentions? You got to look at the person, and you got to see them for what they are. If they seem good, then their fruit should be good. Mm-hmm. If their fruits aren't good, then they're probably not as good as they seem.
Well, I like your Southern saying, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
And if the system was working, we'd be a much healthier country.
Well, I think the system is working the way it was designed.
Okay. How was it designed?
It was designed to enslave you. It was designed to keep you on all this poison for years upon years. Maybe you'd live longer. Maybe you'd not have as fulfilled a life, but you'd be dependent on them for your health.
I'm very interested to know more about this prevention and insurance companies not covering prevention. In your opinion, how much overall health would just come down to prevention if insurance companies were paying for that up front versus what we have today?
I would say 90% or more. And I would say unless you were hit by a truck or fell off a roof or in a car accident or something, yeah, we can put more emphasis on the preventive aspect, and we don't need the system.
Let's do one more of these before we go to politics. This is going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to give you a particular food type or category, and you'll rate that category. Mm-hmm. 1, harmless. 10, poison. Scale of 1 to 10. This is called How Bad Is It For You, Really? Diet Coke.
Yeah, probably like a 7.
Fruit Loops.
Probably like a 7 or 8.
What about the Impossible Burger?
Oh, yeah, 10.
Tap water.
Maybe a 4.
Granola bars.
I don't think they're good for you. I mean, if you're making your homemade granola, that's better. But yeah, that was not probably a 7, 8. That was not really a good thing.
Yeah.
And then most of those are filled with seed oil.
Yeah, they are.
It's crazy.
Where are you at on CBD?
Oh, I love it. And I've implemented it.
Yeah.
And I've gotten people off of prescription meds. Now, the one that I promote is actually not full spectrum, meaning it does not have THC.
Okay.
So CBD, CBG, CBN, it's a chemical process that's extracted later, but I've seen a lot of benefits. And the cool thing is, it's not like Big Pharma. You give the drug, so you require more. Give more drug, require more. I think the cannabinoid receptors in the brain somewhere like 100. Once you saturate them, they go, you don't need them anymore.
Yeah. We've been trained to think about calories. It's all about the calories. Yeah. I went on a health journey, and the first thing I was doing was going into a calorie deficit. Mm-hmm. And I was going to lose 30 or 40 pounds. And I remember making my protein shakes with almond milk instead of with real milk because it was just less calories. Yeah. I'm trying to eat as much as I can and get the protein in that I need to do it.
More sugar.
Someone tells me 3 months into it, you're going to get kidney stones if you keep drinking that stuff. And I'm like, what? Because I've seen people with kidney stones. That looks awful.
Yeah, I've heard it's real painful.
Like, well, I don't want that. I guess I'll have the extra 40 calories of the real milk.
Sure.
But why so many alternatives to the real deal that we've always had, cow's milk? It was already there. And then we had to go and develop more expensive alternatives and then train people that you should be drinking this instead?
So I think this will go along with it. Have you ever heard that people eat bread here and they can't tolerate it, and then they go to Europe and they tolerate it just fine?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's similar. I think the way the milks are produced, especially like if they're ultra processed and all of these things, or if they're not, I just think that leads to the issue. Now, I've not heard of people that are lactose intolerant go to Europe and they can drink raw milk, but I think there's a similar argument. And so with the bread, it's the wheat. And they basically strip the wheat of what God's goodness, and they've made it so it'll have a longer shelf life, and it's white. and then even wheat bread, which I always thought was healthier, I don't do it as much now.
Yeah. Because
I don't believe it to be healthier. I believe it to be inflammatory.
We keep finding out the opposite. Here's what I find
That's
funny,
what I tell patients. So basically things they told you were healthy aren't, and things they told you are.
Big food, I think, came around to solve the problem of not forcing everyone to have to be in agriculture and grow food in their backyard and have cows and have chickens. Where did it go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that I think it went wrong when they started putting messenger RNA in chickens and cows, right? I don't want that. I didn't want it in the shot. I definitely don't want it in my food. And now if they're truly hiding it like they're alleged to be doing, that's just absolutely scary. And I don't know how in a world where labels and everything are present, they can skirt that and get away with it.
Yeah. So military, medicine, and now politics that you're getting into. What's the through line through all of that? What made you get to a point where you realized that you could publicly say the system is broken via your background?
So pretty much I joined the Air Force because I knew the system was broken, and I wanted to prove it to myself so that I could talk about it educatedly and at least say I knew. As far as why I chose to do it now, number one, I'm a little older, hopefully a little wiser. I have kids. I know that America, what at least I thought I was fighting for, was about freedom, and I feel like it's been stripped away in numerous fashions. And so I wanted to take a stand and felt like God had placed me in places along the way, and I obviously wasn't perfect. I obviously experienced life the hard way, and now I'm a little more refined for it.
What do you mean by freedom being stripped away?
2020, that was a complete strip. And if it was based on science, I would argue that, and there's plenty of physicians that are across the land that do too. We could go further, but
But COVID was a big wake up.
That's a huge example of your medical freedoms being taken away, and not necessarily in the name of science.
Yeah. We were talking off air a little bit about the requirement to get the COVID shot. And you, as a physician, were writing notes for people to give them a reason for an exemption.
Absolutely.
To get around that piece of it.
Well, because we didn't know. It was experimental.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still experimental to this day. It's very hard to keep up with everything. But, it was new technology. It was being rolled out. It was true that ivermectin, hopefully we're not censored here, could be used along with just diet and exercise and adequate levels of vitamin D. And none of that was talked about. Lifestyle was nullified. I mean, we've never talked about lifestyle in America. That's why we're as fat as we are. And that's why we're as unhealthy as we are. And that's why we're third in the nation or the world that spends on our I know RFK had talked about it. I can't quote the exact amount, but so we're third, but we're 39th, 40th, and 41st behind Germany, France, and Italy, all who have better food, all who have, I won't say less regulation, but basically I feel like America has been farmed out for profit over people in numerous fashions, to include farming, medicine, and even education. But
as a physician before COVID, how did you feel about vaccines in general?
I mean, I was indoctrinated with them, so I didn't think they were so bad. I had to get them for the military all the time, but there were two that I refused. One was Bacillus anthracis, and the other was smallpox.
Okay.
I told the colonel or whoever it was when they were trying to, prep me for deployment, they were like, "You got to get these." I was like, "I'm not getting them." And so,
what was your reason for not? Because I never heard of the first one.
I didn't think I was at a high risk for anthrax. I did not want that vaccine. Honestly, I wasn't walking in much faith at that time, but something on my shoulder tapped me. I'm going to say it was God, and just said, "You don't need that." And so, then the smallpox one, I've done research now and heard things, but yeah, those things were not going to be useful. And then to speak now, I think we used to get, in my day, I was born in 81, we'd get like 9 to 12 vaccines. Well, now it's up to 72. Autism is through the roof. 1 in 36. Used to be 1 in 36,000 or something. I'm not blaming it all on the vaccines, but I do believe they play a role. And our food is not what we grew up with it as.
Yeah.
It is mostly chemical, especially if you're not hunting and searching and reading labels like I've learned to do the last 5 to 6 years.
Well, it's an important element to do. I think you get a leg up as a physician with the training that you've had to read those labels versus other people. But I want to go back to this.
Well, I will say one thing there. We as physicians, we're not taught nutrition at all. Maybe a week and a half, 2-3 weeks max. I believe that doctor who was, I think she trained at, I don't recall her name, in California, but Stanford, I believe she was. She says that we are not aware of nutrition whatsoever. So yeah, go back to your point.
It's funny though, the public perception when I think doctor that's been trained versus what going through medical school, it was 3 weeks.
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks. I assume, they probably spent a few months on the nutrition side of things and learning. So that's shocking to people,
but the amazing amount of time we spent on pharmaceutical and pills, that was probably all 4 years.
Yeah. Is that because of who's funding the medical schools?
That's what I believe. Go back to Rockefeller. Go back to when the AMA, in my opinion, sold out. Yeah. That's exactly what it stems from.
AMA is the
American Medical Association.
Yeah. What do you mean by them selling out?
So it is rumored, hard to prove things in this day and age, in a age of warfare, but that Rockefeller suppressed natural healing and then went and got the schools to adopt pharmaceutical, and if they did not, they were cast out either from his political connections or buying people off or whatnot.
Wow. So this goes back 100 years of pharmaceuticals.
Modern medicine's not that old.
Huh.
And
That's
we used to do things ancient ways and get better results. So why are we pill for an ill today? I say is not so chill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't know this stuff 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I believed most of what I was taught, and sadly, 90% of what I was taught, it's not that I've necessarily flushed it, but there's a time and place for acute care in medicine, and we are at a time and place for prevention and integration, and it is my opinion and belief that the mainstream, lamestream medical establishment is not pushing that. It's pushing pills and I think we need to get to the root cause of things, and that's what I aim to do in my practice.
You've been a doctor for how many years?
So I went to med school in 2005, got out in 9, residency in 12. So I've been practicing as a physician for 13.
13 years. Okay.
But I started the journey probably in 8th grade. So we're coming up on a 20-year period.
20 years.
Of a dream.
Yeah.
And of learning along the way.
Well, you talked about autism in your talk about the vaccines, and I think that's a controversial topic for a lot of people, but I want to get your insights on that. As a medical professional, you mentioned the data. Help me, as someone who's not knowledgeable about that data, not knowledgeable about the medical side where most people are, connect the dots on where the vaccine specifically, because you also mentioned food, but where the vaccine specifically may play a role in that just by the sheer number involved or the sequence and when they're being applied. Walk novices through that claim.
So I'm not an expert by any means, but I can correlate things. And basically, if you're giving more and more vaccines, we should have less and less health discrepancy, and we should have better outcomes. In my opinion, we're not seeing those outcomes. We're seeing the largest rates of child obesity. We're seeing the comorbidities that accompany that, sleep apnea in kids. You've got diabetes, obviously high blood pressure, and then the cardiovascular. So what I can tell you is, I'm not 1,000% certain that vaccines cause autism, but I also think there is some correlation with the way we've chosen to live the last 30 to 50 years, and we need to switch gears because a lot of things that we're doing are not working.
Yeah. I think a lot of people that are on the opposite side of this issue would look at it and say, hey, that's a dangerous statement to even correlate autism and the vaccines, because people aren't going to want to go get vaccines now. I'll tell you, for my wife and I with the young kids, this is before COVID, the idea of the MMR shot being done together at an early age, our thought process on it was, there's even a chance that this can contribute to or cause autism. I'd better be careful as a parent. How do we get to a spot where parents want to be careful, but they're being told that it's dangerous to even talk about vaccines and autism?
So there's pediatricians that have written books that challenge the timing of the vaccines. So what are the 2 common risk factors for hepatitis? One is having sex. I don't think 1 and 2-year-olds are doing that, and certainly not newborns. And the other is intravenous drug use. Those are your risk factors. Yet we're giving it spot out the gate. Now, there's another argument that a child's immune system is not even developed until the age of 3. So we should at least be pushing for these things to be done later, especially if they do contain some of the heavier metals or things that supposedly make the vaccine more accessible, or perhaps let the brain receive it. And, there's just a lot of research that needs to go into this. And I think we need more research and more debate than the propaganda that we've been fed and led the last 50 years.
How do you advise your patients with kids to think about this 78 vaccine number between 0 and 18?
My kids are all vaccinated because you're in the school system. They will never ever get a messenger RNA, and they will never ever get a COVID vaccine.
Okay.
And they will, in my opinion, if my wife was willing, they would not would certainly not get a flu vaccine either. And I would never do the Gardasil. I would not do any of these methods that are supposedly, proclaimed without doing your homework and research, because there's plenty of people on the other fence that think this stuff is harmful.
Yeah.
But, you're a parent, you're a consumer. You got to be informed. And that's what I think these type podcasts are popping up all over the country, because we don't have a censored voice as much anymore, because we don't have to get our advice from tell a vision, tell a lie. So, yeah.
One thing that I know for a fact as a parent, and knowing a lot of other parents who are on all different parts of the political spectrum, but we all care about our kids very deeply.
Seems like a uniting factor.
Right, and it's puzzling then when you see these issues that you would think there's got to be an objective truth to this. But on one side, you have the complete anti-vaxxer crowd. And on the other side, you have the parents who are basically broadcasting their kids on social media getting the third and fourth vaccine. And look how safe it is. And it's like, okay, I know we all care about our kids, but how can reasonable minds disagree so much on a topic like this? I mean, I'm sure you've dealt with all of it as a physician.
Yeah.
Where does your mind go on that?
I just know that where we're at today is not where we should be 10 years from now. And if we're not having conversations, then I think the people that were trying to divide us and the people that were trying to isolate us, I believe they've won.
Yeah.
And I don't think that should be the case. So if the kids are what are going to unite us, and I really don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but the whole reason I got into this fight was for the kids, even those that are trafficked, even those that are abused, in system roles, and we'll leave it at that. I think it's time we all stand up.
Yeah. Tell me about the moment you started to have questions, because you talk about going through medical school, you were told things, you didn't question what you were told. Now you're at a point now where I think you know to question everything.
I always questioned what I was told.
Okay.
It didn't seem like my med school would be telling me things that could be that harmful.
Sure.
Like statins. That's the biggest racket out there.
We're going to talk about those.
Yeah. So
what was it that pushed you over the edge?
Einstein said the important thing was never stop questioning. So I've always been inquisitive. That was me as a kid. I see it in my kids now, and I hope to inspire that inquisitiveness, that questioning, and I hope to be able to give them advice and guidelines, and not just an echo chamber, but not just whatever the world is saying either.
Yeah. Was there a moment
you
where...
mentioned that I was going against the grain. That's why you followed me in the first place. Mm-hmm. I believe it's time to go against the grain, because the grain is not very good.
Well, that's an important point, too. The reason that you become followable is because I have to ask about the incentives. When you're giving a message that goes against mainstream medical, it's, well, what does he have to gain for saying this? And when the answer is nothing, then it's like, okay, that holds more weight than someone who's telling me that my kids should take MMR at this age at this time. And I go, wait, are you getting paid by somebody for saying this? Do you get a bonus for this? And when you find out those things, like the intentions and the incentives certainly matter.
True.
As I'm sure that you've seen. But what was it that made you start to question a lot more? Because you had to have had a point where things clicked and you go, wait a minute, some of the stuff I was told wasn't just misguided, it was wrong.
COVID was a major one because I'm the single breadwinner of my family. My wife is raising our one child, and then Cruz was born right in 2019. So I think he was around 6 months when we were really in the heat of things. But yeah, COVID, because I started there was another way to learn information. It wasn't from where you were taught. It wasn't taught from the legacy media and stuff. And so I started to educate myself on things because I was always about holistic healing. I'm an osteopath. Structure equals function. Basically, because of the system, because of insurance dictating 7 minutes per patient, how do you do anything besides prescribe a pill? Well, when you learn that that pill's harmful, it causes mineral deficiencies, it leads to this and this, then you start to take it back and you're like, well, what if we really focused more on lifestyle? And what if we got our vitamin D adequate? And what if we got sunlight, less fluorescent light? What if we had our 5 to 7 senses, experienced each and every day, and not just the mundane work like Office Space depicts? I think it was as I was growing. I think I started to have a better relationship with the Lord. I think I started to be responsible for my family, for my children, and I was just not seeing the result. If everything that had been told to me was so great and so amazing, then why are we suffering so much?
Yeah.
And so I just implemented it. I put things I started fasting. I started drinking salt and electrolyte water. I don't take many pills. I did do some supplements. And I started to, look at the world a little bit differently. And then I would implement some of those changes with my patients. And lo and behold, they were better than they'd been in years. They'd seen doctors for 10 plus years. No one had changed anything, just their meds. And I'm getting them off their meds and giving them purpose and having more fulfilled life.
You get a lot of pushback from the medical community when they hear about what you're doing differently.
They haven't come after me yet, but
yeah, they will.
I've seen as people get larger and bigger, they do go after them. But you know what? Come on, bring it.
If that's the politician in you, you're ready for it.
I'm not even a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I never wanted to do that. But when I see that the only way to get something done is to set policy, and like my mom always said, if you want something done right, do it yourself. You just got to get in there and get dirty and do it.
Yeah.
Because my kids deserve better. Your kids deserve better. And in the end, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. You're running for county commissioner. In the last election cycle, I voted for you for the Board of Regents.
Well, thank you so much for that.
How close did you come to winning that seat?
It wasn't as close as I wanted because, I didn't win. But I was going against an incumbent. I was new, fresh on the stage. But I got 41,000 votes, and I don't scoff at that by any means. And I think it's a good base to build upon. I'm also kind of in a different role. That was for Nevada higher system education, one of which I think I would have been good at. But this is also a chance to give back to my community and a chance to maybe start some farm fresh to you kind of deals here. Why not bring the farmers in? Why not give the public the right to choose? Why do we have to just go with corporate areas?
My understanding of county commissioner, I want to set the stage for this to make sure. I think a lot of people know about their congressmen, they know about their senators, they know what that job is. You get to the lower levels, further down the ballot, past the judges, and they go, okay, you Democrat or Republican? All right, that's who I'm going to vote for. But these are roles that have a major impact in our lives. I want to make sure I'm right about this. The county commissioner candidate is dealing with a lot of the everyday issues that people here in Las Vegas from homelessness, healthcare access, public safety, zoning, and economic policy. Is that correct?
That's what I've understood it to be so far. But you mentioned red and blue, and that's another thing that I've said from the beginning. This is not a red and blue thing. That's where they've divided us for far too long. This is red, white, and blue. This is like we need to come together on things we agree upon and then explore the things we disagree upon because there's probably a root cause for why we disagree.
Sure. We talked a lot about the health aspects of this today, and you've talked about, healing Nevada, healing Las Vegas. What are the other important issues to you that you'll run on that you would love to implement as county commissioner?
Well, I mean, you touched on it, but like with the, you said the county issues, but I would say I'm a vet, I'm a father, I'm also a physician, and I'm a taxpayer. I'm a citizen, and I want less government outreach or overreach. I want goods and services ideally to be provided locally first and foremost, and then seek other areas, because I want our community to thrive. I want us to strive for something, not just where we are today, but where we're going. And then the vets and the homeless go hand in hand. And I just think that I did hear that Henderson did not get the homelessness camp, but that was because funding came from a federal area. I don't know if you know what I'm speaking to.
No, I don't. So
but
there's
yeah,
supposed to be a camp in Henderson?
Well, they were thinking that would help, like it'd be like a refuge site, so that people could seek refuge and get what they need. But I believe it's going to be in Las Vegas somewhere. But there was actually land allocated and dedicated. So just all these things. I'm new to all this. I've never wanted to be a politician. But I want what's right for our community. I want what's right for our kids. Yeah. And I'm not a bureaucrat, and I'll continue to fight for it.
As someone who, this is me personally, fled California to get away from the taxation, but also from being in downtown San Diego and living amongst just homeless people everywhere you look. And not just homeless, it's people that have a problem. That homelessness seems to be symptomatic of the real problem, which at least in California was very much tied to addiction. Mm-hmm. When you think about homelessness here in Las Vegas specifically, is it the same, that we're dealing with more mental health type of a crisis that's symptomatic?
I mean, I think mental health is a big element. And I'll just say I think mental health is a lot of spiritual things as much as physical. And I believe if we approach it from those standpoints, we can do a lot to help those individuals. And they do have medical needs, and they do have issues that can be handled from a medical standpoint as well. I mean, at the end of the day, they're humans the same as you and I, and for whatever reason they brought it on themselves, or it was just absolute misfortune. We don't need to turn our eyes away. I mean, I give more on the street now than I ever did. Actually, I stopped doing it because somebody tried to rob me in college when I was like getting gas one day late at night. But I've gotten away from that, and I give as much as I can whenever I have something available. But what I've said to myself each and every day, I take note of them. I drive all over this place. When I become county commissioner, I can then talk to the NAFs. I can talk to the April Beckers and those that are in other areas, because there's 7 commissioners, and we can really come together and make a big difference for these people, because I believe they deserve it.
Does commissioner work? It's that committee, but each committee represents a different part of the county. Is that how it works, or is it?
So as far as how you're voted on, I believe that is the case. But I think we come together. I have yet to go to a meeting. That's on the to-do list. But yeah, we come together and we talk about various issues, stoplights, water. I hope to get more aware of those issues.
Well, these are the everyday issues that everyone who lives in Las Vegas is dealing with.
Absolutely.
You can argue that there's much larger impact that county commissioner has on my life living here than what Trump does as president.
Well, and yeah, the Michael Flynn, the famous general for lots of different reasons, he and I forget the guy from Georgia, but they said go local, impact local. And so that's what I took to heart after McCullough and Joey Gilbert were in the fight, even Sherelle Mendenhall when she was seeking senatorship. And so, yeah, I just decided to go local and make an impact of where I can, how I can, and when I can.
Yeah. I would have to assume health and healthcare would be one of your major issues that you would be dealing with. Would that be number one on your list of what you'd be fighting for?
So the issues, support for veteran and first responders, first responders especially took a lot of heat in 2020 and got praised for that matter. Government transparency and accountability, defending medical freedom and personal liberties, that dates back to 2020, ensuring that public goods are protected and used for public access, and protecting taxpayers from government overreach.
Let's think about that transparency piece there, that number 2 on your list. I think all citizens would appreciate the government being a bit more transparent with them.
I mean, that's
where stuff comes from.
What Doge was at least supposed to do.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where we're at with all that. There is a Doge Nevada. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
I'm not.
Yeah, so there's an Instagram, actually. It's not Brandon Fraser. It's Brandon Davis, I believe.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Doge Nevada. And he's trying to bring that accountability and transparency so that we can see where these funds are going. Because I don't think we're a poor state. I think we're quite rich. The casinos do well. We have other things coming here. And plus, when I was up in Reno, there's a lot of tech going on there now. So we should have money coming in that's not just the old days and the old ways of Vegas. So let's put it to good use.
You think we feel poor because there's probably a lot of waste inside the local government?
Fraud, waste, and abuse, right? And then I'm not completely versed on this, but there was some article by the Review Journal, and I can share it with you if you like after. But it talks about the county commissioners having a budget of $1 to $10 million after they win, and it's like, where does this budget go? What does it do? Is it a personal coffer? Is it helping their neighbor, and literally their neighbor, not the general neighbor? I'm not sure, but yeah, I feel like we have a lot of things to build upon here, and we just need to hunker down and then do the right thing when people aren't looking. Yeah. Integrity, service, and excellence, which I don't know what your core values in the Army were, but those were ours in the Air Force. I still try to remember and stand by them.
Yeah, definitely some of the same ones, although I must confess, I don't remember what they all were anymore. So
See, the Chair Force isn't so bad then.
See, it's not. I think it gets a bad rap of being the comfortable one and the nice bases. Sure. And the Army guys, and I think we're kind of bottom. Right. Of all the tiers that are there.
Honestly, I had more respect after my jet tasking, which was the combined tasking to Kabul, Afghanistan. I had more respect for the Army more respect by far for its people than the Air Force people. So there was truth to some of it.
Well, one thing I'll say about the Army from my time in, I don't know that it's the best fighting force in the world. I think that there are other branches that are better at fighting than the Army. I was never infantry. I'm talking about it as an engineer.
Sure.
But from the logistics standpoint, I don't think anybody touches the Army.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Which maybe the Navy to enable the Air Force. Right. We'll have to go through. I haven't seen that side of it. But together, for the ground forces to make it happen, the Army's logistics are unbelievable. Yeah. To go along with that.
I'm sure the Army and the Marines have a close match.
But you talk about veterans and homelessness being so closely tied together, and something that you're very passionate about. Number one on your list, to make sure veterans and first responders are taken care of, and that they're is it about the perception of where they're at from what you saw in 2020 with first responders and veterans? What would be the biggest piece of the issue for you for veterans?
So the mental health is a big factor. I deployed, you deployed. Thankfully, I don't have true PTSD. Of course, like loud noises and stuff startle me. But yeah, I just think that first responders, those are firemen, those are policemen, those are our nurses, those are our EMS. In times of crisis, like what 9/11 taught us, we have to come together, and we have to do things outside of our comfort zone so that we can accomplish the mission, right? That's what you learn when you're deployed. You do other things. And so I think as a whole, we just need to put our emphasis and focus on its people and not the engines that have driven its people, because I think we can drive ourselves better.
Yeah. I want to give you the last word as we round things up here. If you want to give a website for folks to donate to your campaign. If you don't have it now, that's fine. We can get it and put it up into the episode when we actually post it. Or a final word of what you want to say to voters who are out there.
Yeah. So I'll get you the info. It's at my website.
Okay.
And then I'll get you some Instagram contacts. And thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I just want to tell people, like I said in 24, get into the fight. Get your neighbors and your children or your siblings into the fight, because it is a fight, and it is a informational fight, right? It's 5th generation warfare, and that's going on 6th generation. I think the Chinese say they prepare for 4 generations before they enact a plan, because they know there's that many steps and stages. We just need to be informed. We need to be aware. We need to be, I say, spiritually aware. We need to be physically aware. What you were taught and told may not be the whole truth. And so if you seek it and you're entitled and inclined to believe whatever you want to believe. I find it hard to believe the things I believe today, but I've just started searching probably since 2013 when I deployed, because I just knew that there were some things that just didn't make sense. And I felt like that war was not really what the American people desired and needed and wanted. So I'm trying to attack this locally now and just, get out and fight.
But you're not a politician.
I'm not a politician. I know freedom ain't free, and I know that we got to stand for our other generations so that they can stand on what we did. And you got to ask yourself, what did you do, Dad or Mom, in that time when the world was shaking? Because I believe the world's shaking, but I believe it's all for good reason.
Well, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing this today. Certainly opening up my eyes to some of the things that are out there.
I hope to open eyes as we go along. My motto is to do it with truth, light, learning to do it with love.
I love it.
Yeah.
Excited to support your next campaign, too.
Well, I appreciate that.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.